Alright, we are into the Dignitas versus CLG game. Immediate bans out on Nidalee, Xin Zhao, Syndra, Gragas. Interesting choice of the Syndra and Gragas. I understand Nidalee and Xin Zhao basically being permanently banned against both these teams, as they really hate to see Nidalee sit back, throw out spears all game long. Xin Zhao also a great jungler, but we see immediate pickup by Kayle from Dignitas, likely going to be going into that mid lane and trying to get all the value they can out of her ultimate and her ability to just deal massive AoE damage, especially if you can group people up. Fully expect CLG here to pick up their support, likely a Taric, as they seem to really favor him, or possibly a Sona, in addition to their jungler, likely a Lee Sin like we saw in the earlier game, as that's basically their standard choice for early game domination. And I think it'd be a really good spot here. It gives them a lot of options still open. You could easily switch Lee Sin up into the top lane, or have Sona just kind of roam around, and it will be Alistar and Mundo. Not what I was expecting at all. Very different choice. This has to be a specific team comp thing coming out of CLG, as Mundo is very team comp reliant, so is Alistar, and it looks like we are going to see a V and Singed, meaning all Dignitas' solos are picked up, meaning they just need to support and AD carry. V still very strong in this patch, as her ability to just move around the map is almost unstoppable. Kayle with her ultimate is going to make it really hard for CLG to do a whole lot. And Singed, he's Singed. He can run around, do whatever he wants. He's not going to take enough damage to die unless you really focus him. And if you're focusing Singed, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Definitely kind of curious what CLG is going to come up with here, and I'm really not sure, as they are not in a good spot. They will go with a Galieo and Ahri. Well, this is certainly not the standard lineup coming out of CLG. They're trying something different. Galieo, I'm going to guess, is going to go top with Hotshot, as he's the only Galieo player I've ever seen in the competitive scene. Ahri, a very solid mid choice. Her ability to roam is very strong. And Dignitas just look real happy here. They're excited. They got what they want. They pick up a Zyra for support. Likely going to go an AD Thresh. Could go Draven. Yeah, Draven, definitely a very strong choice with Zyra. Zyra just locks him down. Draven punishes him real hard with his axes. And that's just a brutal combination coming at Dignitas. Lots of CC, lots of damage. And I'm really not sure what CLG is going to be able to do. And it looks like they gonna go with a high damage AD carry. They need something like a Vayne, a Kog'Maw, something that just does a lot of damage, as they don't have a whole lot of damage elsewhere. Ahri doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Galieo doesn't do a whole lot of damage. They do good damage, but it's not the ridiculous amount you see out of some of the AP champions that have really been shown off this tournament. But they have a whole lot of options here on the CLG side of things. I definitely think it'll be Kog'Maw. Could be Vayne as well. But it's going to be one of those champions, and they're just going to play protect the Kog'Maw, as it looks like they're going to go with. Unless they decide to switch it up at the last second, which they very well could. And yes, it will be a Kog'Maw, meaning CLG is basically playing farm and protect Kog'Maw, as their lineup is basically built to do just that. They have a lot of AoE power in team fights, with the Galieo ultimate, Ahri, and the extra CC coming out of Alistar, so they can have a lot of AoE and teamfight ability. But it's really going to come down to, can you protect Kog'Maw enough for him to really bite into those tanks? Because I don't think Singed is going to be that easy to kill. Kayle can make someone invincible for a few seconds, and Draven can sit fairly far back without getting caught by Galieo. They also have the Zyra ultimate they can throw down to interrupt. They have Singed playing that can interrupt, and a lot of various interrupts. They have V who can actually just run right through it if she pops her ultimate properly. But this is definitely a strong lineup coming out of Dignitas, and a very unconventional style coming out of CLG. I guess they just weren't happy with their performance in the first game, and I think they really just want to try something at this point. I don't think they're too concerned about winning or losing this game, as much as they're about playing around with a patch and getting ready for the next set of games. And as they're really just trying to throw their opponents off and try different styles. This is the kind of tournament where you're not going to be out of there real quick. You're going to have a lot of games. You're going to play every team multiple times, and it's always a good idea to try something. And that's exactly what I think CLG is doing here, and we're going to see how well it works out. And especially against Dignitas, who has an absolutely brutal lineup. And I'd almost think they were a counter pick, because I think CLG is going to be in a lot of trouble if they don't get that early pick off, which Kayle can basically prevent. I expect to see CLG doing the lane swap with Kog'Maw and Alistar, as that's just a really powerful top lane. Even though Singed will have a decent time against it, as they don't have a lot of harassment, and especially until Alistar gets level 2 and he gets his knock up. Kog'Maw doesn't have a whole lot of CC. He has a decent slow, but that only really works if Alistar gets his combo off. Looks like we are going to have a slight invade here by CLG as they're looking to place that deep ward. Kayle will actually spot them out, so they know exactly what's going on. V will see them as well. And it looks like the entire CLG team will be at the red buff, and they will likely take it, which means V will be forced elsewhere, though they are actually going to go back. They're not going to go there. They're going to place the deep ward on V, making sure she doesn't actually get off the red buff without being seen. She can't do it with those early game ganks. Kind of surprised Dignitas didn't counter ward with their own ward fairly deep on CLG during all of that, as they had the opportunity to. Zyra was in a decent spot for it. But instead, they're just going to go play it very safe and accept the fact that they're going to be 2v1 lane down bottom, as it will be Galieo versus Zyra and Draven, which is pretty decent. Galieo has the ability to last hit from pretty far away with that resolute smite. He'll also have a decent time if Mundo comes in the gank, as they can really stack those slows up there. And I expect Mundo to do a fairly early gank up top, as Singed just is not that good until he hits 5 or 6. And gets his ultimate, or in this, a few extra points in poison, which allow him to split push and harass at the same time. I definitely think we're going to have to see a lot of ganks coming out of V in this top lane, even though it's going to be very hard to gank, because Alistar is one of the best counter gankers in the entire game. His ability to, or her ability to just move around the map is so strong. She can just get behind all the wards, sneak around them as well. And it's just a real pain in the rear. Looks like we are going to have a bit of lag, and I do apologize for it. Okay, I think the lag has cleared itself up. Looks like just to be a small spike. I do apologize for that little bit of lag spike. Looks like we are going to have Alistar placing a very deep ward on the blue buff of V, and it looks like we are going to try and steal it. As we do see everyone here, Singed is in the area. V does get a knock-up, as you see a slow throw on Mundo, but Mundo immediately flashes away. Singed is exhausted, but a nice knock-up there by Alistar. But Alistar's in a lot of trouble, and he could go down here. Singed doing a lot of damage as well. Kog'Maw trying to fight, but a pretty big win here for CLG, as they didn't lose anyone after Mundo got really caught out there. If he had had Ghost, he would have been very dead, as the slow from Kayle would have prevented the Ghost from doing its full effect, and they would have been able to catch up to him. It looks like V will be able to pick up this blue buff. Mundo does have Smite, but he is bringing it back. And it looks like Kayle will be in the area, as V does smite it away. Kayle in a lot of trouble here. She does not have her flash, but Mundo misses the cleaver, and that means he will be in decent shape. Kayle will not be safe, as the charm does land and Alistar does jump in there. First blood picked up by Mundo. And it looks like we down bottom, Draven completely dominating this Galieo, taking him completely out of lane. Though nice move there by Galieo, walking back in range while Draven's bleed was still on him. Draven will be forced back, and Galieo will be able to pick up a good bit of farm. Singed getting a decent farm up top. But the problem is, that's a first blood. V jumping in onto Mundo. Mundo taking a lot of damage, but V should be able to catch up. No, she's only level 2. She really needs level 3 to be able to do so. But Mundo is not in very good shape at this point. He's going to have to go back to base. V is likely going to have to as well. And it looks like Dignitas is looking to pick up Ahri in the mid lane, or at least steal out some race. And yeah, V's just going to go for the race. No need to try something too risky. Kog'Maw so far in the lead, as he's picked up 24 minions already to Draven's 18. Galieo getting a lot of farm down bottom. Singed actually doing pretty well himself. So all that chasing really helps Singed out. As he had the ability to farm, he applied a bit of pressure to Kog'Maw, and he's gonna not be completely zoned out. Zyra taking a lot of damage from Galieo down bottom, as Galieo just has a good bit of burst. But the problem is, if Galeo's throwing his magic abilities onto Zyra, he's not using them to farm. And I think he would have been much better to just take a few points of harassment and farm, though he has gone back to base already, picking up a few mana potions in addition to that cloth armor. Looks like we are going to see Singe just continually forced under the tower. I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to get much farm at this point. Alistar's returned to lane, and he's looking really menacing. He can tank the tower up while Kog'Maw does the damage. Kayle going to be getting some good farm in the mid lane, even though she wasted a lot of time roaming around, and is down 5 minions to Ahri already, and Ahri decided to go back, pick up the boots and the Duran's Blade. Galieo taking a lot of damage, but Draven taking a tower hit, which is a fairly even trade considering Galieo has just a lot more sustain than Draven, as he has what looked to be about 3 potions left and the cloth armor, though Draven has those double Duran's Blades, meaning he can sustain all day long. And it looks like we are going to see CLG losing the first tower. They might be able to take the top. They're going to take the top tower in exchange, as it's likely going to be a 1-for-1 tower trade fairly soon. Singe has decided to go back. He has picked up boots and the cloth armor, meaning he should be able to stay alive in that lane and actually push it out a fair amount before Kog'Maw gets back. And with Kog'Maw backing, I'm kind of surprised, as they could have easily taken that lane down and taken the tower before Draven got up top, as they will likely swap the lanes after picking it up. Draven finishes off the bottom tower, and the top tower is not in bad shape for Dignitas. It's still above half health, and Singe is going to be able to push the lane out fairly far before Kog'Maw and Alistar return. Kog'Maw has decided to go for boots and some potions so he can actually sustain himself in case he takes a few ticks of Singe poison. Singe has hit level 6 and does have his ultimate now. Galileo's teleport is still down for a fair amount of time, so they won't be using that anytime soon. Singe is able to go back. Likely going to be running down bottom to fight up against Galieo, which is a pretty big win for Galieo, as Galieo does a great job against Singed. He can just throw that bulwark up on himself and heal himself every time Singe poison ticks. Looks like we are going to see 3F top 4 CLG, as in the mid lane, Kayle's taking a lot of damage from Ahri. Ahri could easily dive, but just out of range of the charm. Mundo is spotted out running towards mid lane as we continue to see Kog'Maw push that top lane. Singed, not in a good spot, but I think he could easily push the minion wave at this point. He does place a ward very nicely to prevent Mundo from tower diving him, as they could as soon as Alistar hits level 6 tower dive fairly effectively, though he's still a ways away. Blue buffs being put onto Ahri, and she will have a very nice time against Kayle at this point. Kayle has not gone back yet. Galieo getting a lot of farm down bottom considering they took that early tower, and I'm surprised they haven't lane swapped yet, as I think Dignitas would really advantage themselves going up against Kog'Maw at this point, not giving them that free farm. Even though I think Dignitas is saying, we're better in the late game. We're going to let your Kog'Maw farm. We're not worried about him. We think our Draven's going to be stronger. And I think that's what's going to happen, especially if they can get Kayle farmed up. And Singe is going to be able to hold this tower for quite a while. Kog'Maw's doing a bit of damage, but Alistar does come in there, take a bit of poison, and is forced to heal up the minions. Looks like we're going to see Dignitas taking Dragon at this point, as it's completely uncontested. There's a pink ward there. I don't even think CLG knows about it, and Draven will be able to pick it up. Though I think they have to suspect something's going on. It looks like V will just be able to jump over the wall, and Dragon has been taken. Dignitas is up to about a 1,500 gold lead. Not a whole lot, but it's a pretty good amount considering the objectives they've taken so far. They're likely going to lose their top tower fairly soon, as Singe is taking a lot of damage. He does have his ultimate pop, so he will be okay for a few moments. So he is going back to lane. Draven and Zyra running up top. Not sure they're going to be there in time, as Kog'Maw has the tower very low. Kayle going to be taking her own blue buff. She has picked up the Stinger, go building into Nashor's Tooth. In a lot of trouble mid lane, and she will go down here to Ahri. No, Kayle ultimate just in time. Beautiful Kayle ultimate. Saves V from a lot of trouble, though we do see Mundo running in here. And Mundo will be able to pick up the kill on V as she just was not prepared. Should have backed up a little farther. Great play there by Mundo. And we are going to see a tower dive up top, which means Dignitas is going to run away. Smart move by them, recognizing what's going on. 4-man tower dive top. And if V had run back and Mundo not seen her, Mundo would have been probably not have gone up top to tower dive. I don't think they were planning to, but when they saw the opportunity to take the tower for free, they said, let's go for it. Nice charm there by Ahri, as she does do a fair bit of damage to Kayle, but Kayle will be able to heal herself up and just continually farm. Draven getting a lot of room to farm up top as Singed is able to push down bottom. It looks like we are going to have lanes swapping back for CLG, with Kog'Maw going down bottom up against Singed. Singed doing a good job of farming so far. Galieo not too far behind. Singed opting for the Tear of the Goddess instead of the more standard Quick Rod of Ages build. But I think it's a good choice in this game, as it looks like Dignitas wants to take this game late. Singed going to be just jumping onto Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw in a lot of trouble here, and he might actually go down if Singed wants to pop his cooldowns. And I fully expect him to do so. Kog'Maw has actually popped his cleanse, as Alistar does come in there and save him, but that's really painful when your AD carry can't even farm in a 2v1 lane. And he needs the protection of Alistar. Alistar can't go roaming around ganking, but it's something I'm assuredly he wants to do. And it looks like we are going to see a tower push in here by Dignitas. 3 members are grouping up for the tower. And it's definitely going to go down here. The damage of V and Kayle is just a little too strong. Ahri not in position. She could possibly pop her ultimate to run in there in time. But it looks like no, they've decided not to. They decided to back V out and play it very safe. Interesting choice. I probably would have gone for it. I think the correct decision was to go for it, but they really didn't want to risk it. And it looks like we are going to see V running up top. Likely going to try and dive this Galieo. He is level 8 at this point. He does have his ultimate. He does have teleport. But it looks like we are going to see V running in here, and she will take tower aggro. Pop the ultimate. Zyra throwing out, and Galieo will die without even popping the ultimate. Beautiful CC chain there by Dignitas. I was waiting for that Galieo ultimate to try and turn it around, as they would have taken a lot of tower damage. But he just never got the opportunity. It was perfectly played by Dignitas. And they will be able to take this top tower. No one is in the area. It looks like Singed is going to be coming down bottom, but Ahri and Mundo are with him as well. And it will be a trade 1-for-1 towers. Though it looks like mid tower will go down to Kayle unless something happens. Singed doing a good job of just staying back. He does spot out Ahri and Mundo. And the charm will not land. No reason to pursue it any further, as they do trade 1-for-1, but it looks like Draven isn't done. He's going to continue to push this top tower. And I think he can beat out Galieo at this point. He's got the BF swords, got the double Duran's blade. Kayle's going to finish off this middle tower, and then likely join her team down bottom. Singed does have the ability to pop his ultimate and run into this fight, as we do see a lot of damage coming out of CLG. But they are forced back as soon as they see Kayle rotating, as they don't want to take the fight. They wanted to get that extra tower, but they didn't want to risk it. Both these teams playing fairly conservative, considering how deep they pushed into the enemy's side of the things. Draven throwing out the ultimate to give a bit of scouting, as it does not hit anyone, just a bit off. But he will just continue to set up top and trade farm with Galieo. He is slightly ahead of Kog'Maw at this point, being the high farm of the game at 117 minions. Kog'Maw right behind him at 112, with the mid laners right behind them in the mid 90s. And it's definitely very close, as Dignitas has a 1,300 gold lead so far, and CLG looking to take a tower in the mid lane. Though Zyra and V are in the area, this tower is going to go down very quickly unless Zyra just does something crazy. But CLG is not clearing it fast enough. They will be able to get this tower just barely. No, they decide to back up, as Kog'Maw does get the 1 or 2 hits out there, and the next creep wave means they're going to be able to take it. As we do see 4 members there, and Galieo able to teleport in. V jumps in there with a big ultimate onto Kog'Maw, and that will mean Kog'Maw goes down. V likely go down as well, but Mundo is taken out inside. Beautiful ultimates around. Kayle getting also very low, and Alistar will fall. Triple kill for Kayle. Absolutely beautiful play there by Dignitas. V just getting in there and applying a lot of pressure with her ultimate. Galieo still not coming into any of these fights with teleport. He's kind of been a wasted pick at this point, I feel. If he'd have come in there with a teleport, they could have turned that fight around. Because they were fairly well grouped up on the Dignitas side of things, with the exception of Draven. But you don't really need to catch Draven if you can catch everyone else. As Draven has good damage at this point, but not great damage. He has gone for the Bloodthirster while Kog'Maw's about to finish up that Infinity Edge. And we are going to see the second dragon of the game taken by Dignitas. Galieo in here trying to apply a bit of pressure as we see the rest of Dignitas running away. Dignitas will actually decide to run away instead of fight it. Singed in a lot of trouble as he will be taken down. Flash ultimate by Galieo is not happening as Draven breaks it immediately. Draven ultimate does fly as you do see V in the area. The question is, will V actually try for the steal? And she will not, as she does get hit by the charm and will likely go down, but she will buy a lot of time for her team to get away. Her mobility just too strong as we do see her rotating around. Alistar will be able to pick her up with his combo at this point. And a pretty big win by CLG, getting there just in time. There just was not enough damage coming out of Dignitas, as we're likely to see a blue steal coming from CLG. Question is, will Kayle get there in time? I think Kayle will, but I don't think Kayle wants to contest it, as we do see it picked up by Ahri. And the game is in CLG's favor, but it's virtually nothing as a lead. It's 200 gold, and CLG is waiting to go on to Kayle here, especially if they steer up by that next minion wave. Kayle is basically dead. Yep, Kayle is gonna die here. No question about it, as we see the three-man gank squad of CLG coming around. And then Kayle will be spotted and knocked up by Alistar. Charm right on top. Kayle could pop the ultimate and try for some major damage. She does. And will she be able to pick up Ahri? No, she will not, but a shutdown by Ahri. Beautiful play there by CLG, just waiting on the blue buff. Draven coming up top as well, as CLG just starts to run immediately. Galieo popping the teleport to head down bottom to help Kog'Maw out. This Kog'Maw's in a lot of trouble, but we do see Singed running away at just the right time. He does get out of there and forces the Galieo teleport. But it does mean a lot more farm to Kog'Maw, as he has now overtaken Draven by a single minion. And he's continuing to apply pressure to this bottom lane, just placing that poison out and dealing a whole lot of damage with it. Looks like we are going to see Zyra try and steal the red buff away, but no such luck, as she's just a little late on the roots. And both teams are very even at this point. Neither team has a whole lot of advantage, but I definitely think Dignitas has the late game here, as that Kayle is going to get incredibly strong. Same thing with V and Singed, and even Draven's going to do a whole lot of damage in these team fights. Kog'Maw has finished his Infinity Edge, so he's going to be ridiculous in fights. But I think V will be able to crowd control him enough that he's not going to be a problem. Singed going for the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, as we do see Kayle about to complete her Liadri's Torment. She has the Nashor's Tooth already. V with the Spirit Stone, Longsword, and Lock of the Iron Solari. Draven with the Bloodthirster, Double Doran's Blades, working towards that Phantom Dancer. Zyra picking up the Kage's Lucky Pick, in addition to the Ruby Sightstone. Alistar going for Boots of Mobility and Ruby Sightstone. Kog'Maw with Infinity Edge, working towards Phantom Dancer. Ahri likely going for the Rylai's Crystal Scepter after picked up the Abyssal Scepter and Doran's Ring. Mundo has completed his Warmong's addition to the Spirit Stone. Galieo with the Lock of the Iron Solari and building more tanky. Looks like we are going to have Mundo invading fairly deep into Dignitas' jungle, but Zyra will spot him out with a ward. Oracle's up onto Mundo, but he will be able to pick up the pink ward before it actually gets the green ward. And we are going to see CLG grouping up as 4 and pushing this mid lane. Likely going to go for this tower. Ahri misses her charm, as V was just out of range. Kog'Maw doing a lot of damage to this tower at this point, as he can really shred those towers from distance. Singed getting onto Galieo down bottom, as he does a lot of damage, but that bulwark of Galieo just too strong, healing him up every time the poison ticks. It looks like CLG is grouped up as 5, looking to steal this red buff. Will Draven throw his axes out there? He does, but not in time, as you do see Kog'Maw picking up the red buff. And CLG still has a 300 gold lead. They're even on towers at 3-3. CLG is up 2 kills, and they are even on dragons at this point. The only real difference is there's been a little bit more farm coming out of the Dignitas side of things, but not significant so. And it looks like we are going to see CLG take this middle tower fairly uncontested, as they really didn't get a good fight. But there's Kog'Maw getting caught by V as Alistar jumps in there and gets a nice knock-up. Galieo ultimate hits 4, and this is CLG's fight. Beautiful Zyra ultimate hits 5, but Draven just not able to clean up in time, as there is just way too much damage coming out from CLG. And Draven will throw out his axes and does actually pick up Kog'Maw at the end, but he will pay for it with his own life. But no, Zyra plant blocks the axe from Mundo. Draven does fly forward and gets another set of axes out, and he will be taken out. A little too aggressive there by Draven, trying to pick up the kill on Ahri. But a big win there by CLG, taking down an extra tower and picking off 4 for just the price of 2. And the support and AD carry not super valuable, especially considering what they gained for their lives. Looks like we are going to have Galieo building up, likely into a Randuin's Omen, could be building into a Frozen Heart. And it looks like we are going to have the Liadri's Torrent finished up on Kayle at any point in time here. Brutalizer soon to be up onto V. And they really need this Singe to get his next item if Dignitas wants to take another fight like that, as they can't have Singed just sitting there in the Galieo taunt the entire fight, as that crippled them. That was just a beautiful flash ultimate by Galieo in that last fight, which really won it. Mundo is going to have his Randuin's Omen up very soon, and I'm not sure what Dignitas can do with all those attack speed slows coming out, as they're going to have the attack speed slow on Galieo with his Frozen Heart, attack speed slow on Mundo with the Randuin's Omen, and just a lot of CC coming out from the rest of their team. It's a pretty good lineup for crowd control effects. They don't have a lot of damage, but they have enough on CLG at this point. If it goes much later, Dignitas might be able to just out-tank them, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. CLG has decided to pick up Dragon, and it looks like Galieo is going to be teleporting here and warding them off of that Tier 2 tower. It looks like they might be caught out. We do see Zyra throwing her plants out to just be a nuisance. And they're still chasing them on the CLG side of things. They're going to look to cut them off. Alistar has a good opening. Mundo misses the cleaver, so they won't go in. And instead, they're just going to go siege the inner tower. As we do see Alistar just out of range of jumping in onto Singed. But they're going to be split on Dignitas side of things. So CLG sees an opportunity here. And I think CLG is going to take it, because I don't foresee Dignitas being able to defend this tower very well. Draven and Singed are still a ways out. V jumps in onto Kog'Maw, but there's not enough follow-up. She just doesn't have the damage. Galieo getting in perfect position to get a 4-man ultimate, though he does get knocked up by the Zyra roots, as we do see Singed just running through that back line, applying a lot of pressure to Kog'Maw, and getting away with the Kayle ultimate. Kayle flashes forward, takes a lot of damage from Kog'Maw, but Kog'Maw does go down, not able to pick up anything. And a great defense there by Dignitas. That Zyra ultimate came at just the right time to break out the Galieo ultimate, and that's exactly what they needed. V was just tanky enough in that fight. Just tanky enough. As she had virtually 0 health. She was living on single digits at the end of that. Singe was living on double digits. And for a Singe, that's a ridiculously low amount of health. And they just barely got away. And that's just coming from CLG not having much damage outside of Kog'Maw. Ahri has a bit of damage. Galieo has a bit of damage. Mundo has a bit of damage. But that's just bits. It's not that big threat which you come out of Kayle and Draven compared to just the Kog'Maw. And even Singed has a lot of damage, as he's going to have his Archangel staff very soon. And he has now finished his Rylai's Crystal Scepter. And is looking to build into Liadri's Torment, which means poison and more DOTs coming out from Singed, as Liadri's Torment will do a whole lot of damage on him. Just the ability to continually burn the entire enemy team. And he can get back onto Kog'Maw, especially with V, how she's been initiating. Just popping her ultimate, charging in, and basically forcing Kog'Maw to play defensive the entire time. And that's really just been the strength of V this game. She hasn't had to do a whole lot. She's not done a whole lot. But she's pressured Kog'Maw and made him a non-factor in these fights, outside of just hitting her. But if you're hitting the jungle V instead of someone more important like Singed or Kayle, or even Draven, they're problems. Looks like a Marillanomicon picked up by Zyra, as you do see Draven finishing off that static shiv. Leandro's Torment up onto Kayle. We do see Alistar trying to come in for an engage. Riley's Crystal Scepter finished up onto Ahri, as we will have the Phantom Dancer soon up on Kog'Maw. Singed not in position to defend here, so it looks like they're going to give up this tower to CLG. But no, CLG decides to back up. The minions weren't in their favor. They were just a little too slow, as Singed is still not even coming back yet. He's just now recalling. He does have home guard, so we'll get there fairly quickly. As it looks like we are going to have CLG just starting to seize the tower. Kog'Maw popping his ranged abilities and able to just do a lot of damage before the fight starts. V not able to get in there in time, though Draven does do a bit of damage with his axes. Kog'Maw returning it with an ultimate shot. And it looks like we are going to see them just continuing to fight. CLG up 1,000 gold, but they feel like they're up at more than that. Looks like we are going to have the Draven axes farm out the bottom lane, as there are not any wards near Baron for Dignitas, and they're going to have to go in blind. There's an Oracle's up onto Galieo, as he does have the ability to really stay alive in these fights. He's probably the tankiest member. We do see Ahri throwing out some damage onto Singed before the fight starts, and that's exactly what CLG needed, was to get this Singed at about half health before the fight really begins, and they're going to be able to take down these wards and make it a blind Baron for Dignitas if they want to contest. Though they do have Zyra, which means her plants will give them some vision, and I don't think Dignitas cares. I think they're going to go for the inhibitor. And if they go for the inhibitor, it's going to catch CLG off guard, and that's exactly what happened. And it looks like we are going to see Ahri come in there, but the slow from Singed and Draven just too strong. Kayle very out of position if they were to go for it, but it looks like CLG is going to go right back for the inhibitor tower, and both of these teams are just chasing each other around. Neither team getting a real big advantage either way. There is a ward placed here by Dignitas, and it will see them rotating over to Baron instead of going for something else. Draven can't go down bottom lane, as CLG really just wants to push that bottom tower with that big minion stack. CLG likely going for the blue buff, as Zyra is in a really awkward spot for her. She could come around from behind. She does throw the ward out and spots the entire CLG and knows how lucky she is. Nice three-man route as Draven jumps in there. V jumps in, knocks Mundo up instead of going for Kog'Maw. A very bad decision, as Kog'Maw is going to do a whole lot in this fight. Galieo with a beautiful three-man ultimate. Singed getting very low, but Galieo is taken out. Ahri does flash the route by Zyra, as we are going to see Singed finishing off Mundo. And we are going to see Ahri caught by the Zyra roots and finished off by Kayle. Kog'Maw doing a whole lot of damage. Beautiful combo there by Alistar, but Alistar will be taken down here. Ace by Dignitas on the back of a beautiful Kayle ultimate, and just a better team fight there. A good fight by CLG, but they just could not finish it off. They just didn't have that last little bit of damage to get on Draven or Kayle, and that's what it came down to. They've burned a lot of their damage on Singed, and look at Singed's health. He's at 10% after regenerating for several seconds. He was on virtually 0 health at near the end of that fight, but when you burn all that damage on Singed, you're gonna have a hard time killing off what's left. They did a lot of damage to V, and I'm surprised V isn't building tankier. And that was even a bad fight for Dignitas, as they didn't get V right on Kog'Maw, like they usually like to do, as V just does a wonderful job of applying pressure to Kog'Maw with that ultimate. She went for Mundo instead, kind of caught him out, and there was enough damage to finish him before he really needed to go elsewhere. Mundo did get away for a little bit in that fight, but still, not enough, as Dignitas has taken the gold lead by 2,500 gold. It's still very close in anyone's game. But CLG's problem is Kog'Maw is not getting the damage he needs in these team fights. And Singed is getting tankier every single second. If he picks up a Warden's Mail, I think this could be over, as a Warden's Mail would mean complete control by Singed, and Kog'Maw won't be able to kill him. Though he is gone in a different route, picking up some magic resistance, not wanting Ahri or Galieo to do a lot of damage to him, and preventing Mundo from cleaving off a percentage of his health. Looks like Kog'Maw is up top and not in position to fight if Dignitas wants to take it, but I don't think they recognize him. as he was pretty far back and could easily rotate it through their own jungle. As you see Dignitas pushing out fairly heavily. Zyra doing a good job of just clearing wards, and it looks like they are going to set up for a bait, as there is a ward there. Good ward there by CLG, catches out the bait attempts. Mundo just going to continuously throw out wards as he's picked up several of them. Alistar with that Ruby Sightstone has even more. And Zyra Plant's doing a good job of scouting things. As it looks like CLG is going to go for the inhibitor and try and force a bad fight. Dignitas running right back, but there is a ward there to spot him out, and I think they recognize it, as they would have gone for the inhibitor already, and they do see the ward with Zyra. Nice use of the Singe Slow there just to bait out some of Ahri's abilities, and Zyra Plant scout everything out. Galieo in a little bit of trouble, but a big axe and orb by Ahri means Kayle's going to have to back up. Right now we are seeing Dignitas in a good spot here, as they do have the Oracle's control over Baron. Kog'Maw on the other side of the map, and I think this is Dignitas' cue to go, as CLG needs Kog'Maw. And yeah, they're running straight for Baron, no questions. The thing is, Dignitas needs to keep someone outside of Baron that can interrupt Galieo. If he flash taunts, it could be over real quick, and that looks like to be what he's trying to do. But he will get in there for a good taunt, but Draven does finish Baron Nashor off. Beautiful 5-man taunt, but Singe is just too strong at this point. He zones out the entire rest of the team. Though Dignitas is very low, we do see Locklear and Solari saving Zyra, but Ahri is going to get caught by V, but V is exhausted. And that means Draven's in a lot of trouble. Beautiful ultimate by Kayle. And Draven just going to continue to chunk down every single person as Kayle and Draven are finishing off the job. As we do see Mundo taken down for the ace. Beautiful Kayle ultimate. And that's one reason why Kayle is basically permanently banned. You can see the excitement on Dignitas' face as they just beautifully played that team fight. And CLG just does not have an answer to this Kayle. The Kayle ultimate saves Draven there, and Draven just got enough damage out. They don't have enough damage on Kog'Maw at this point to really destroy Singed. Singe going for an Abyssal Scepter, it looks like. A very interesting choice out of him. I figured he'd go Warden's Mail for tanky, but I don't think he cares. He thinks he can survive long enough. Or he could be finishing off the Archangel staff. I think that'd be the better choice here, and that's just a casual Negatron Cloak. Looks like we do see Kayle picking up the Void Staff and a Giant's Belt. V finishing off her Spirit of the Lizard Elder, going into the Black Cleaver. Draven finishing off his last Whisper and picking up a Giant's Belt, likely into Warmongs. Kayle with Warmongs, soon to be picked up as well. Zhonya's Hourglass, soon to be picked up on Zyra. She's picked up the Seeker's Arm Guard. And we do have Galieo going for more armor as he's picked up the Lock of the Iron Solari. And likely going to be going for the Frozen Heart, I think. I think that'd be the best choice on him. But still, he's just not really completed anything, because he has a lot of components but no real items. Mundo has completed the Warmongs and the Warden's Mail. He hasn't done anything else other than that Spirit Stone. Ahri picking up the Hextech Revolver in addition to the Abyssal Scepter and Rise Crystal Scepter. Last Whisper finished up on Kog'Maw, meaning he's going to do a whole lot of damage in these fights, in addition to the Infinity Edge and Zeal. He's getting to that point where he's not going to be killable because he has too much damage. We do see Shirley's Reverie and the Ruby Sightstone up onto Alistar. But it's still anyone's game at this point, as the gold lead is 5,000, but that's not a healthy 5,000 gold. Looks like we are going to see Dignitas just pushing up this top tower. It's very low. CLG's not going to defend it. Wise decision to just try, see if Dignitas wanted to really go for it. But they're not, and Dignitas is going to back up. And with that backup, I'm not sure what they're going to do at this point. They're looking like they're just going to go push mid lane or pick that bottom tower. Yeah, I think they're just going to play it very safe, get all the gold they can, and realize we're a stronger late game team comp until they can stack attack speed slows. But they're not. CLG had the ability to. They looked like they were going to, but they decided against it and went with something else. As a Frozen Heart here would have been amazing on Galieo. And I think that should have been what he's going for, but he's kind of not gotten anything at this point. He's got the Glacial Shroud. Looks like Draven takes a bit of damage, but is healed up rather quickly. And he's tanky enough at this point that he's not going to be burst down by someone like Ahri if she goes for a Deathfire Grasp or even a Death Cap at this point. And he's just able to run in, throw a shot at the tower. He does get charmed, but immediately cleansed. Absolutely essential cleanse there by Draven, as Alistar was about to jump in and pulverize him. There we go. There's the Frozen Heart by Galieo. Very late pickup, as he does have an additional Chain Vest and Ruby Crystal. But he picked it up, and that's going to hurt Draven and Kayle, as they don't have the attack speed to kill someone like Mundo off. Nice root there, keeps Kog'Maw at bay, but a lot of damage coming out onto Draven is a nice knockback on Draven, and Galieo in a lot of trouble, as he is forced to flash away and won't be able to initiate, and that will mean a free tower for Dignitas if they so choose, as both him and Ahri are sitting at well below half health, and I don't believe either one has Home Guard. No, they do not, and it wouldn't have activated for several seconds anyways. That Draven Bleed keeps you in combat for a long time. Ahri throwing out another orb, as we do see the inhibitor tower going down. Inhibitor soon to go down as well, as you see Draven just focusing on it, but a nice ultimate by Zyra forces off the Ahri ultimate. Singed in a lot of trouble, is just continuing to run that back line. V taken out first, as we do see Draven finishing off Alistar, and the Kayle ultimate big again as it keeps Singed alive and allows them to finish off Kog'Maw. Should be good game in the favor of Dignitas. That Kayle ultimate been perfect every single team fight and has really snowballed the game. Those Kayle ultimates have been absolutely perfect every single time, and that's the reason Dignitas is going to win this game, as I don't think Mundo has the ability to stall Draven and Kayle. If that Kayle ultimate didn't land when it did, Singed would have gone down, and Singed would not have been able to apply that extra bit of damage, do that little bit of extra damage to Kog'Maw to kill him off. And in a wonderful game there by Dignitas on the back of that Kayle's play. That was a wonderful game. And that shows you why Kayle is basically permanently banned every single chance any team gets. Thank you for watching Games Cast by PanderNyrl. If you wish to see more, follow my YouTube and Twitch pages below.